I'm James, and today I'm going to be talking about infrastructure as code at NYC Mesh. Just a quick note, this isn't really intended to be a really technical presentation. It's just meant to be more of a overview of some things that have been going on for, I would say, general volunteers and general members. So what is infrastructure as code? At a super high level, the idea is to turn structured text into some kind of a running system or some kind of a running thing. It's typically very templatized so that it's easily deployable in different places, different systems, different clouds, different regions. And, at work, that would be something like, deploying to your I can't say how many Kubernetes clusters across, I can't say how many different data centers across, I can't say how many different clouds. But like here at NYC Mesh, it would be more like, let's have DNS servers set up at both supernodes in the same way, but with, slightly different management IPs. That's the scale we're running at. And IAC makes that a bit easier. There are a bunch of different kinds of ways to do this, many more that are on this list. Terraform is in use for deploying DNS updates to name.com using an open source Terraform provider, and I covered that in a previous presentation. These days, it's also used to deploy the infrastructure for DNS, including like the VMs to Proxmox, and the same for like other VMs and containers to a bunch of other services that I'll be talking about. And Terraform is great. Ansible is good at basically configuring things over SSH and using Python. You can also do the same thing with like a lot of network devices too, like Omnitic devices, like we've done a couple times, Matt, for that connectionless stuff. That was one of the ways that we rolled things out. Yeah, you can do a lot of things with it, and it's great. Helm is for templatizing Kubernetes manifests. There are a number of people in this room that know about that a whole lot better than I do. Yeah, it's a great way for working with Kubernetes. And just a promise to you all, this really isn't anything to be afraid of. It's just text, it's in GitHub, it goes out to different places, it's not going to hurt you, it's not going to destroy the mesh, I promise. I'll find different ways to accidentally do that. So, it's not scary, see? This is some Terraform, not technical, just a super high level here. We have like a VM resource. We have a templatized host name, which ends up in the Proxmox server as, NYC Mesh 713 and TP3. And you see like a couple of those values. It would be probably good to templatize that, right? At different locations so that you can keep everything straight. And then there will be some stuff that's a bit more static, like a little comment that lets you click the link to see how exactly the thing was built, so that if you're troubleshooting or whatnot. So, you want some things templatized, but not everything. And everything that you see in the IAC on the left just gets mapped to everything you see in the environment on the right. So same kind of thing with Ansible. Ansible is something that you'll like a lot if you are familiar with like basic Linux command line sysadmin stuff. Here we have a Jinja2 template, which templatizes the NTP IP variable. It copies from the part of this file that I have screenshotted here, and it throws it into Etsy cronny.conf, where you can see, an actual IP appears. That's from the configuration for that specific environment. And I guess if you're familiar with Linux, I'll leave the last property here, the last attribute here as an exercise to the reader, but maybe some of us recognize those numbers. And I think more of this as well, like copying a file, that's a thing that seems pretty familiar. Also, restarting and enabling a systemd service, I think that's something that, you can, if you know to Google the task names like these three, you can pretty quickly, I think, learn a lot about Ansible if you have that, baseline Linux understanding. So, not that scary. I don't know if I should make that claim about Helm. The same, I think fundamentally the same kinds of things apply. Look, we have my good friend John, who was the last person to update the wiki. Thank you, John. But in the values file, in the book stack area, there's a port defined, it's port 80, and that slides into the service as values bookstack port, kind of like values bookstack port. And with all this IAC stuff, there's a lot of this mapping things back and forth, typing out a whole bunch of things that that just get swapped in. And there is documentation about all of what a service actually is in Kubernetes. That's maybe a whole class that you can take. I would encourage you to. It's fun. But I mean, I think that the wiki has been updated multiple times, and none of this needed to be touched. It was just a version number being updated. So maybe this approach does lead to easy maintenance later. So how does this actually happen? As I was saying, code gets stored in GitHub. I think I was saying code gets stored in GitHub. It then gets deployed via GitHub Actions. It's kind of nice because all of that code to deploy and all of the code, all the IAC code, is all stored in GitHub, and anyone can see it. And then the GitHub Actions will open up a WireGuard tunnel using a WireGuard server that's created via IAC to be able to talk inside the mesh to Proxmox, where it can deploy to multiple different environments. All of this, one right after the next, and no one has to SSH into 10 different servers to be able to have 10 different servers. So it's kind of nice. So where is this actually being used? As I mentioned, DNS, now the infrastructure is all Terraform and Ansible. VPNs, that was a recent thing. That's all Terraform and Ansible. Syslog, there's a Syslog server. Actually, there's two. And that's all Terraform and Ansible. Kubernetes, that's been around for a while. We have a few clusters now that are in use on different servers at different locations. That's a bunch of Terraform and Ansible, and then all of these, and there are this is an alt list. Since I made these slides originally, there are a few more services that are installed via Helm charts, but there's a whole bunch of these, and I didn't even make all of these. I think Willard did part of this one, all of this one. Willard's involved. It's awesome. Everyone's doing Kubernetes. It's the cool thing to do. Also, I have a new beta service, NTP, which I'm going to be doing some more things with this summer. Also, some common code that's shared amongst several of these, just to make things easier. So, if you've been coming to these for a while, you might recognize all of this slide except this word, or this acronym. It's the second time I'm presenting this slide, but it is all the same as before. I think that this is good because of the transparency, which I think is extremely important for NYC Mesh. We get a lot of things for free when we kind of use this general approach of using Git and GitHub and deploying with GitHub Actions and doing open source for real, kind of. And I think that's great. I like that anyone who has an internet connection, which includes all of the volunteers, hopefully, all of the NYC Mesh members, we really hope so. But also like people in Seattle or Arizona or Germany and what is it, Catalonia in Spain? All of these different people who may have similar problems that could maybe be solved in similar ways can see and understand how these things work. And I think that's great. And even people that don't do community networks, they want to learn about it, go for it. Also, if any of those individuals want to, well, if they think that they could do something a bit better, or if they think that there are areas for improvement, they can, one, open an issue and say, hey, you should do it like this, or two, they could just open a pull request to offer changes to us, and then kind of the whole community can benefit from this open source IAC. And I think that's really powerful, and a good way that NYC Mesh can give back to the broader community network world. So while anyone can submit changes, there do need to be some approvals, which is a good thing. We wouldn't want horrible untested changes to go out the door and maybe take down services. So the built-in approval flows of pull requests are great for helping out with this, which also means that we have a good log of who changed what when, which is really helpful for noticing if something went wrong, or hey, when did this change, or did anything change recently because it looks like the thing broke on such and such date. This is generally, I think, the best way to actually get transparency. And in fact, I would argue that this is the only way to, in fact, get true transparency. If you have, let's just say, another community network where you have services that are built by hand, where access is either restricted to just a few people, a few trusted volunteers, you might run into issues with people, the systems not being as transparent as they could be. Another situation, let's say you have some kind of a shared password or something, shared accounts. In that case, there isn't much accountability of who changed what when. And there's also a lack of transparency that changes happened. Someone will only know to go look and see that there was a change when something breaks, or if they are just bored on a Saturday or something. But I think that the only way to really get transparency in how these systems are built and are operated is to make all of the changes happen in the public square. And that's what this does. And so that's why I think it's great. I see a question, Matt.
I would just add, from a learning perspective, it's also great. The who changed what when is not just about accountability. It's also for dummies like me who like to take things apart to figure out how they work. I can work backwards through the what was changed and when and by who, and it's a great learning tool. So,
I totally agree. Can you imagine if we had some setup where we only had a couple people that knew how exactly it worked? I mean, that would be terrifying, and it would be very risky for the organization to build things in that way, I think. But moving on, I think the other huge advantage here is minimizing clicking. I think it would be super annoying to have to roll out changes to, God, what is it? 8 DNS servers that I operate, by going to one after the next. But being able to manage these with IAC helps to scale horizontally in that way, but also it makes it possible and more realistic to design systems the right way that can have redundancy. So yeah. So I wanted to say some thank yous to some people who have done stuff with this, because like I've been trying to do a bunch of stuff here, but like there are also a ton of people who have also been doing this stuff. So Willard was really big in the spinning up of the K8s infra project and getting that cluster working in a reasonable way. We iterated on that. Yeah. Yeah, and it wouldn't have happened, and I think more of this wouldn't have happened without that experience. So thank you, Willard. Also, Andrew approved so many PRs for DNS. You wouldn't believe it. His GitHub graph on days when I was bothering him were probably just bright green with activity. So thank you very much, Andrew. And also very good.
James,
No. Also, like very good code reviews that actually identified issues, which
that's true.
I should point out that's another huge reason why this approach is great. It's because there's the opportunity to catch things before they go out the door. It's not an outage that identifies the some typo. It's hopefully it's a skilled code reviewer. So thank you, Andrew. John is the person who has updated the wiki. I think the only person that has updated the IAC wiki.
But it's easy to do, so anyone should do it.
Yeah. See. Also, I think he dived into the HA proxy stuff to set up certs, so we can actually do TLS with real certs easily, which is great. So great job, and thank you so much, John. Daniel, who I don't see here tonight, unfortunately. Daniel continues to surprise me on his ability to pick things up quickly. He picked up like Kubernetes and Helm in like an evening, which is unreal. He's also dove into the HA proxy stuff, and we've gotten a couple services that go through that load balancer. So great work, Daniel, if you're out there. Keep up the good work. Also, I have to say the VPN stuff would not have gotten done without Daniel on the design and a lot of the legwork and all the hard work, basically, as well as that guide from John. So thank you both very much. And then again, chronologically, finally, Josh, I'm not sure if we've actually met in person, but over the internet we have. Thank you so much for implementing BFD for the VPN connections. It's now an optional like configuration option, but his work on the bird config and the Ansible and the template, it was all very great. So yeah, shout out to Josh. Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. And that's a great segue into thank you to all of the 10 contributors to the VPN repository. Some people that I haven't mentioned in that list: Matt's doing config stuff, Leiden, Andy, Mr. Olivier himself. Thank you all for contributing, for using the thing, pointing out bugs. Yeah. So it is really satisfying to see, people actually contributing and using the thing and understanding the thing. So, got it. So it's less, IAC is less scary than a bug that's attacking you during a mesh meeting. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and if you would like to have a deeper technical discussion about this, more than happy to. I just didn't think that was for this context. Yeah. Okay. Looks like we got some questions.
I have 2 questions and I have the microphone, so I'm going to go first.
Well, first question. So, from the transparency perspective, from a Git perspective, it's nice to see from a security standpoint, oh, only these people can make changes and it's publicly reviewed and it's changed at X time. Are there other security things that are beneficial from, I guess,
Yeah,
all of
that's
this is being run locally, right?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I think that because everything turns into sorry, this gets a little bit into my work, but so I have to watch how I say this, but I think it's a lot for some types of things, if you can spot them, some types of security issues, if you can spot them as text in IAC, that makes it so you can catch it quicker, catch it before it gets to production, which is great. It's also at times a lot easier to identify certain classes of security issues using text-based scanners. Like there's a really good one called Chekhov, which happens to be produced by a company that I work for. But yeah, I think it's better to catch these things early as opposed to doing other types of scanning later in the process. And yeah, obviously who changed what when is great. Reviews, enforcement, all of these things are, I think, really great for security.
Cool. Thank you. And then second question, just completely random. I remember at some point that I saw that drift detection was a thing in AWS, and I'm curious, is there any way of detecting when there are changes on the machines done manually to kind of synchronize it?
That's a fantastic question. So with Terraform, for the specific resources, definitely. For, let's see, Helm, I suppose it just gets rotated out. So yes, Ansible's not, that's why Ansible's good, and not actually good. But it's interesting. The way that I am trying to mitigate that, is by some message of the day warnings saying, don't you do anything, don't you dare, as soon as you log in. And also some messages in the notes on the Proxmox VMs. But yeah, certainly there's still the need to follow engineering best practices, because with anything, there's always someone with an admin account that can do the thing. But yeah, so there we will need to still be cautious of chaotic one-offs that aren't intended to resolve an outage. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about if a member wanted to get started working on a project or something, is there like an environment that we have for them to do that? And like, how do they get started?
Yeah, sure. So I definitely suggest that the member reaches out in like the Mesh Services channel. I think all of the people that you probably want to talk to are there and watching that channel. But yeah, there are definitely we have development environments for new projects and so on. Depending on the individual's needs, depending on if they want to do it with IAC first or not. We could spin up a repo. You could, ask for a VM on that development box, whichever one seems to meet the needs. But yeah, so don't hesitate to reach out. We'll get something going.
Sweet, thanks.
Cool. Yeah, cool.